There was once a baker who had a shop in a small town in America. This baker was not a very kind man. He never gave his customers any more bread than necessary for their money, and he never smiled. Yet, he was truly a skilled baker. His bread was so incredibly soft that it was hard to imagine anything fluffier. Sometimes, customers would pay for their baked goods and start eating them right there in the shop, and his cakes were absolutely delicious. His cakes were truly delightful. People from all over town came to his shop just to taste his baked goods. As they walked down the street, they couldn't resist the enticing aroma of fresh bread and delicious cakes, which seemed to invite them right into his shop. However, not everyone stepped inside. Some simply stood outside, breathing in the aroma and peering through the windows. The baker didn't like this. Their stomachs are full of the smell of my bread, he thought. I'm giving them a free meal, yet I get nothing for my hard work, he muttered to himself. Maybe there's a way to capture these delicious smells in bottles, then I could sell them just like I sell my bread. One early winter morning, the baker was in his shop, busy making bread. But instead of humming cheerfully as he worked, he grumbled to himself about waking up so early, about the freezing weather, and about anything else that crossed his mind. Amidst his grumbling, the baker looked up and noticed someone peering through the window. It was a young man wearing a worn-out coat. His eyes were fixed on the baker's bread, and he was clearly hungry. He was breathing in the scent of fresh bread and smiling. When the baker saw him, he became furious. That thief outside my shop is filling his stomach with the smell of my bread. A free breakfast, he thought. I work hard, and he just steals my smells, and I get nothing for it. The baker fumed. The young man didn't move. He just stood there, eyes closed, happily breathing in the scent of fresh bread. Now, the baker was truly furious. The baker marched across the shop, flung open the door, and shouted at the young man, "Pay me." "Pay you? For what?" the young man asked, utterly surprised. "For the smells you've stolen," the baker replied. "But I haven't stolen anything. I'm just smelling the air." "Air is free," said the hungry young man. "It's not free when it's filled with the smells from my shop," the baker retorted. "Pay me now, or I'll call the police." When the young man refused to pay, the baker grabbed him by the coat and dragged him through the snow to the judge's house. He knocked loudly on the door. After a long wait, the judge finally opened it, standing there in his nightclothes. He looked at the baker and the hungry young man standing outside in the street. It was 6 o'clock in the morning. What could be so important so early in the day? "This man is a thief. He stole the smells from my shop," the baker protested. The judge was surprised, but all he said was, "Come in and tell me your story. But first, give me a moment to get dressed." He went back into the house. A few minutes later, he returned and let them inside. They all sat down together around a large table. "All right, tell me everything." "Baker, you go first," said the judge. He listened quietly. First, the baker told him all about the hungry man who had stolen all his smells. The judge kept listening. Then, the young man explained that air was free and that anyone could breathe as much of it as they wanted. When they finished telling their stories, the judge remained silent for a few minutes. The baker then started complaining again about how the other man had taken all his smells without paying. "Stop. Silence. I've determined our course of action," the judge declared. "Young man, do you have any money?" The young man reached into his pocket and produced a few coins. He displayed them to the judge and said, "Sir, this is all the money I have in the world." "Hand those coins to me," the judge instructed. The young man placed them into the judge's hand. "I've carefully listened to both your accounts," the judge began. "It's true that the scents were emanating from the bakery, and these scents belong to the baker. And it's also true that this young man enjoyed those aromas without paying for them. Therefore, I decree that the young man must compensate the baker for the value of these scents," the judge declared. The baker smiled, perhaps for the first time in his life, and immediately extended his hand for the money. However, the judge didn't hand over the coins. "Baker, listen carefully," he said. He shook the coins in his hand, producing a jingling sound. "This sound pays for the aromas," the judge told the baker. "Return my coins, sir," the baker demanded, no longer smiling. "No," replied the judge. "I've determined that the sound of money is the appropriate payment for the smell of bread." With that, he handed the coins back to the poor young man and told him to go home. The baker is depicted as a skilled yet unkind individual. He believes that only paying customers should enjoy the pleasant aromas of his baked goods, and he is never seen smiling. The young man in the story is portrayed as someone who cherishes life's simple pleasures, like the scent of freshly baked bread. He contends that air is free and insists he hasn't stolen anything. He embodies a more carefree and open-hearted approach to life. The judge's decision to equate the sound of money with the smell of bread adds a clever twist to the narrative. This highlights the notion that, at times, we become overly possessive and overlook the intangible joys in life, like the sound of jingling coins. The story imparts a lesson on greed, possessiveness, and the significance of experiences. This underscores how an excessive focus on material gain can lead us to overlook the simple pleasures surrounding us, which are equally significant. In summary, The Thief of Smells is an engaging and instructive tale that encourages readers to appreciate life's simple pleasures and reflect on the importance of intangible moments of joy. In the story The Stolen Smell, the sense of smell serves as a symbolic element. The baker's obsession with guarding the aromas of his baked goods represents greed and excessive possessiveness. He is so focused on protecting his invisible possessions that he loses the ability to enjoy simple pleasures and share them with others. This emphasizes how an overattachment to material things can overshadow the intangible joys of life. The young man in the story symbolizes innocence and the ability to find joy in simple things. Ironically, the baker's obsession with profiting from his aromas leads him to lose money rather than gain it. His effort to charge the young man for the scents ultimately backfires when the judge hands the coins back to him. The judge is depicted as a figure of wisdom and fairness in the story. His choice to equate the sound of money with the scent of bread highlights his ability to look beyond material wealth and recognize the intangible worth of sensory experiences. Despite the baker's frustration and seriousness, the story maintains a lighthearted and humorous tone. The judge's witty resolution adds an element of humor that enhances the overall message. The Thief of Smells subtly critiques consumerism and the notion that for some, profit takes precedence over everything else. It implies that embracing a more balanced way of life, one that values simple joys and shared experiences, can ultimately bring greater happiness. Although set in a small American town, the story's themes of possessiveness, appreciation for life's simple pleasures, and the consequences of greed are universal, resonating with readers across different cultures and eras. In conclusion, The Thief of Smell is a brief yet thought-provoking tale that employs symbolism and an unexpected twist to convey its message about the value of life's simple pleasures and the dangers of excessive possessiveness.